Lesson number 119 is about the quadratic formula and the use of the quadratic formula. Now, first things first. The quadratic formula, which is on page 501, if you'd like to look at the proof for how this is obtained, is this formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Please copy this into your notes. We need the quadratic formula in order to solve the questions that we're going to be asked. Let's look at our first example. We want to find the roots, which are the same as the answers, of the equation using the quadratic formula. So here we have 3x squared plus 2x minus 7 all equals 0. We've got the quadratic formula listed down here. We can go ahead and put a box around that. And what we want to do is we want to substitute our known values into this equation in order to solve. Now what we need to know is that the value attached to x squared is always our a. The value attached to the x is always our b value, and the value that's by itself, the constant, is always going to be our c value. So let's write those out. A equals 3, b equals 2, and c is going to equal negative 7. And it's equal to negative 7 because the formula that gets us the a, b, and c looks like this. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So if c is a negative number here, and we have this formula of plus c, we must have c equals negative 7. Now let's go ahead and solve. If you need to copy this down, please do so now. Pause the video. Okay, so when we go ahead and solve with this, we know x is going to equal negative b, and our b value is 2. So we're going to get negative 2, and we're going to substitute with parentheses. Plus or minus the square root of, then we have b squared, b is 2, 2 squared minus 4 times our a value of 3 times our c value of negative 7. Take the square root of all that, and then we're going to divide the whole thing by 2 times a. 2 times our a value of 3. Now, we'll work through this piece by piece. X is going to equal negative 2 plus or minus the square root of, we have 2 squared, that's 4, minus, and then we have 4 times 3, which is 12, so minus 12 times negative 7, we can figure that out next, all over 2 times 3, which is 6. Let's work across. As you can see here, these do take a fair bit of room, but take your time as you go. So negative 12 times negative 7, or we could say, well, we've got 12 times negative 7, and we have to make that answer the opposite. You should have gotten 84. So we're going to get negative 2 plus or minus 4, or the square root of 4 plus 84, all over 6. Let's back this off a little bit so we've got a little more room for our next piece. Then we're going to get negative 2 plus or minus the square root of, well, 4 plus 84, that's going to give us 88, all over 6. Well, the square root of 88, we're going to have to break that down. When we break down the square root of 88, we might get this, negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 times the square root of 22. So 4 times 22 is 88. And this is going to all be over 6. We did this because the square root of 4 is 2. So our answer will simplify to negative 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 22, all over 6. A lot of work here. Make sure you've been following along carefully. Pause the video if you need to see what we've been doing as we go. We've got one more step. Our last step is we're going to divide both pieces, negative 2 by 6, and 2 times the square root of 22 by 6. And what we'll see is negative 2 over 6 is the same as negative 1 over 3, plus or minus 2 times the square root of 22. Just enough room there. We've got our final answer. And this is 2 answers. We know it should be 2 answers because it's squared. It's 2 answers because we've got the positive version and we've got the negative version of our answer. So again, it was negative 1 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 22 all over 3. That looks like a big answer. Sometimes we'll get whole number answers or integer answers, and sometimes we'll get answers that involve radicals. If they involve radicals that can't be simplified, you have to leave them as radicals that can't be simplified. Let's look at another one. All right, this one looks a little bit different. We have negative 6 equals negative x squared plus x. Now in this one, this isn't in that format that we were looking at earlier. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So let's put it in that form. Let's move everything over to the left so it all equals 0. When we do that, we're going to get x squared minus x, because we move this to the opposite side of the equation, so it becomes the opposite sign, minus 6 equals 0. Now we can see our a, b, and c value. A equals 1x squared. B is equal to negative 1x. And c is equal to negative 6. Now let's solve. So we've got our quadratic formula. We'll erase this part in red so that we've got plenty of room to work, and we'll go ahead and solve. So x equals negative our b value, which is negative 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 1 squared, minus 4 times our a value of 1 times our c value of negative 6. This is all over 2 times a. So 2 times our a value, a is 1, so 2 times 1. Now as we go through and solve, the opposite of negative 1 is 1, so we're going to get 1 plus or minus the square root. Negative 1 squared is negative 1 times negative 1, that's 1. We've got a double negative here, so we're going to need a positive answer. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. All over 1 times 2, which is 2. Let's work across. 1 plus 24, that's 25. So we get 1 plus or minus the square root of 25 all over 2. Square root of 25 is 5. So we get 1 plus or minus 5 all over 2. Oh, now we can solve. Our two answers. The first way we're going to get our answer is to say 1 plus 5. 1 plus 5 is 6, and 6 divided by 2 equals 3. There's one answer. Now we've got to get the second answer. 1 minus 5, that's negative 4. And negative 4 over 2 is going to equal negative 2. So we've got our second answer. Our roots, or our answers to this equation, are x equals 3 and x equals negative 2. We'll practice the quadratic formula more in class. Our lesson practice will be on page 503. Make sure your notes are complete, and I'll see you soon.